Hey guys, welcome back and welcome to the final video presentation on my Ma.K Seapig that I finished for the Weathering magazine. In this final video I'm going to take you through how to set up and use your oil paints and how to use a couple of specialist products to add some real finishing touches to your modeling. Okay, let's go. Okay, lastly, oil paints. It's not advanced weathering until someone cracks out some oil paints. Now I was 50-50, I was thinking about using oil paints. It doesn't really need them. It probably is done. It's good enough to be done. It's good enough to kick it off. But my wife said, yeah, go on. So I'm doing it. Now oil paints are, oil paints have probably been around as long as we have. I mean, we probably mixed up some blood in with some crushed up rocks, spat it on the wall, and boom, art was born, right? So there's a reason for that too. Oil paints are probably some of the most color rich and dense and beautiful paints that we've got really available to us. Now these have gotten a lot more fancy. This was just it's a color I really like. I mentioned it previously when painting this one. I said something about industrial earth, and there it is. Industrial earth. Now, I bought this ages ago when it was a MiG Productions product, and it's subsequently, I'm pretty sure they've been bought by someone else. I think AK Interactive maybe owns these guys, but I really wanted this particular color just for lots of things. But as you can see, I also own the world supply of other ones, but that original one dried up. I'm not sure. I go with a couple of colors at first. No, I don't need to. This is just some regular cardboard that something came packed in it. And what you want to do is you want to draw off some of the, you want to get rid of the oil in your oil paints. I know that sounds really stupid, like a lot of things I say, but it's for a good reason. The oil's just the carrier, right? And what you want is the pigments and powders that are left over. So I squeeze a little bit of this out. You don't need much each time. And put that onto here. There we go. And you can see there's a lot of extra oil, especially when oil paints are new. A bunch of oil comes out. Now, I work really hard to keep these clean because that's one of the reasons your oil paints go off is you don't put the lid on properly. They don't seal, the bloody things leak. They can be a real pain in the bum. You know why some guys sat around inventing acrylic paints is because these things are such a pain in the backside to work with. But the results is what you're after. Now, I'll go for a selection of colors that I like. I can be a bit random with it. I don't need to do all of them, but once I have all of them out there, I do tend to find a use for them, if that made sense. So what I'll try to do is muddy and earthy colors. I'm just racing through these now. I probably won't need a bunch of these. Faded white maybe. Black if it's still usable. Wash. Basically all of them. Yep, all of them. We'll see how many can fit onto my little thingy here. Let's give them a test out. And what's this one's called? Basic Earth here. I might give that one a skip. And go for some with a high chromatic value, like this one, faded dark yellow. But it's really a strong. Gosh, the name's forgive me. Is it cadmium? Help me out, guys. Cadmium orange. That's really what this is based on. But because they're selling it to tank dudes, they've got to put an armor name on it. It's a brilliant color. It's probably a lot more than you need. They last pretty well, but you just got to use them sparingly. They're very powerful paints. Snow White. It might work for dust, but I've got, what else have I got? Faded white. Yeah, I'll give straight white a miss. I'll go with this faded white. I'll stay with off-white as a bit of a theme. Yeah, and that's what that is. It's a little bit of off-white. I try to keep it thick, because what happens is the paint, as it dries and settles down, it gets quite thin. You can't pick it up anymore. Now yellow. This might highlight some of my space color, but it might bring back a bit too much yellow. What do you think? Buff might work a little bit better, but we'll see how this dries on it. It might look okay, but it's very yellow. I think I'll give that a miss. I've got plenty of yellow in my base coat. I'll give that one a miss. Let's go with something else. Where did that come from? Stick that on there. Buff can be useful as a dust type color. This one's a bit sticky. Squeeze a little out. Boy, this is going to be an exciting part of the video. This might help me actually. I might keep my my oil paint colors to a minimum this time, because I'll run out of things to talk about whilst pulling them out. How's that sound? Now, olive green is a must do for this color, I think. As long as it hopefully dries nicely and matte. Now, this is one of the reasons you want to get rid of the carrier oil in these paints. Is that once that oil is out, it helps them to dry quite matte. So instead of using a number of filters and sprays on the model, I like to use these kinds of these oil paints. They actually act as a matting agent at the last stages of the paint job, and helps you give you a good sheen, a sheen variation difference. So I'll use the word contrast a lot. I overuse the word contrast probably, and but different kinds of contrast help your eye to see the model in its details. So one of the things that you can do is not just contrast between, say, grey values, black and white, colours and hues, but also different variations in the amount of sheen on the model, the amount of gloss, and that's the thing. Now, light mud. You can see that one's been leaking a little bit. That's why I'm so pedantic about cleaning these things up. Still probably good and usable, but yeah, still okay. That colour, a bit moon dusty here, could work. Slight variation, can't hurt. Dust! A slightly bluey version of it. It's this German grey highlight. It's just light blue. Oh, that's a spiffy colour, I like that. Now, I'm going to use these for all kinds of things. It's kind of like a depending on how your model's gone, it could be like a last Hail Mary pass to fix up some stuff. Now, black oil paint, very danger. This stuff's super powerful. You don't want to get it on anything. Get it on your clothes, or that'll never come out. But good richness though. You can go around and retouch up any details or anything you want to miss. So with the dusty colors, I can go back and do dust. I can add shadows in with different colors. Which reminds me, I haven't seen my blue. Oh, there it is. Good. When I say shadows, one of my favorite oil paints. There's like, it'd be in my top 3 would be this one. They call it faded navy blue. I think it's ultramarine blue, but now the thing is, these paints are not high quality. I'm not bagging them. I'm not saying they're bad. I buy them. These are bought with my money. They sell them to modelers as really high quality paints, and they're not, and that's good. You don't want the high quality ones. The high quality ones are way more expensive, take much longer to dry, and have much finer particles. They sell it to us because on the whole we're pretty clueless. We don't know that we don't want the high quality ones. Oh, this one doesn't. Oh, poor ochre. German ochre has not survived the trip. Yeah, it was pretty dry before. Now we've got a bit of life coming out, but oh, need a bit more fibre in that diet, mate. Yeah, that one's on the positive side. That will dry out. That will dry out really quick. It actually, speaking of fibre in the diet, it does look a bit like a rough skid mark, doesn't it? Yeah, okay, well that one's probably... Actually, I remember I quite like that colour too. It's a great, like, dirt, dusty one. Oh well. So be it. Okay, so now I'll leave them out. Now you can see the oilier ones, like the first one, the brand new one I put out. Look at all of that. That's all of the oil bleeding out of the paint. And as it dries down and stretches out, they'll mat down. And if you leave them long enough, after say 2 weeks, they will dry out. But that's one of the nifty things about doing this, is that you can use these as is for a couple of weeks. So if I get 2 projects done quickly, I may be able to use this palette on my next project. Maybe for some of them. Now the skid mark won't be useful. Skid mark will be gone, but a lot of the other ones might still be open and workable, and we can give it a try. I've got these awesome ones. SMH, Stefan, one of my old mates, sent me these really fantastic paints, made in the Netherlands. It's probably something that the Grandmasters used, and they're so good I haven't opened them because they're too good for me. Now I'll let this set up. That looks arty in itself, doesn't it? And I'll let this go for a while, and I'll come back and start applying this to the model. Now look at that. See the oil coming out of it there? And it's matting down there. That's nifty. Yeah, that's really cool. And you see this one's drying out now. So some of this will be usable down here first. If I want the softer parts, I'll go for up here. And then the drier parts will come back down here. Now you'll see when I use oil paint, I actually use oil paint. I don't just slather it over a model and then wipe it off, and it's just, you know, you might as well be using bloody engine oil. It's oil paint is a classic paint, and I think you know, pardon me for sounding a little bit, you know, old school about this, but I think it deserves a little bit of respect. You know, and we should use it as the proper paint that it is, and it's a wonderful medium that will help bring our models to life. That was probably really long, but I'll come back soon, guys. Cheers. Morning, guys. So I've done about 70% of the oil work here last night. I wanted to get a bit of a head start because that deadline is looming. I've pretty much got to finish this guy today. Now, one quick memo. If you can hear the farmyard noises in the background, no, I haven't moved the studio to a more rural setting. The Tabs has got Minecraft going over there. No, it's okay, sweetie. You don't need to turn it down. It's funny. I can hear she's set up this really cool farmyard operation outside her little base camp in Minecraft. She's quite the star. And I'm not working with any products that have fumes now, so I'm kind of set up near my family so they can see me on the weekend. Well, Dad works. So real quickly with this one, I'll show you. I've set up and accentuated the camo on this a little bit more, the line, the demarcation between the colors, just because that always looks really cool. Now, gotta be careful how I hold this guy. Usually I set these guys up on blocks of wood. I wasn't sure how that would work with filming, so I've kind of made a couple of places here lighting shift. I've made a couple of places here where I won't use oil paint so that I can handle it. You can see yesterday, see how the sheen is? The nozzles have dried, and I'm pretty happy with how they look. They're a nice blank yet metallic sheen, which is basically what I wanted for this guy. Now, the glossiness of this is giving me a bit of a light reflection, so I'll work with it. As I get better at the videos, I'll be able to be a bit more pro with that. Now, yesterday, I've still got my industrial earth paint here. You can see how the carrier oil has seeped out into the cardboard as I babbled, and you want that. I know we're paying for that, and that's the part that keeps the paint open, supple and pliable. But what we're doing is we're reducing that to help it to dry to a more matte and dusty finish. We don't always want that, but for most of the time, for our weathering purposes, that will work fine. So it's drier than it was yesterday. There we go. I don't want too much. And I'm just going to dot a little bit around that demarcation line here. A little bit more here. Now you can see I've worked in a bit there, and you can see that color, that richness of color has been put into the base paint there. Now, depending on your finish too, the matter your paint is, the more the oil will stain. So, and which is, you want that, but just that's a word to the wise. If it's shiny, it will slide more, it will stain less. If it's very matte, it will stain heavily. And depending on the your desired outcome, you can use that, or it will use you. The first kind of attempts at oil painting, it will use you. Don't worry, that happens to all of us, including me. Oil paints are very powerful, and they mess you up. But learning to work with them is definitely worth the investment. Now, a dry brush, I stipple the oil paint back into the surface there to reduce some of the harshness and to extend the color onto both sides. Not much, it's a subtle effect, but it's very different from when I hadn't done it, right? And it's kind of, for this model, this is actually the defining moment for this model. Ooh, that sounds heavy, doesn't it? But it really is. This is the charm point, they like to say in Japan. This is what makes this model. You watched all of the video, right? This is the one thing that will really make this model look different to others. Is the this last step on the camouflage will give it a very unique look. Now, if you do it on every one of your models, it won't be unique, right? So, I don't always do it. I've only done this on a couple. I'm not saying it makes it the best model either, but it makes it a different, unique look. And that's what I wanted for this particular camouflage. Now, there we go. Now, use this one sparingly. You can really overdo this, and it's a real pain, and it messes up all your previous work. But then again, that's why I left this last. I mean, if you guys have stuck through me, you're pretty keen and advanced. You want to learn something good. You won't get to the advanced stage without taking a couple of risks, right? And if you completely stuff it up, yeah, it's a model. It's hardly the end of the world. Right? It's a plastic model. Now, I've had other professionals say to me, how can you say that? It's your life. I said, yeah, but perspective, right? I'm not out there trying to cure cancer. If I was smart, I would. But I'm not. I can do this. A little bit up under here. So the way I'm gripping it makes some of this a bit hard to show as I get better at video production. that will improve. Now there's a good opportunity to show a little bit too much. I put on, it's a bit too thick there. Ooh, and there's a bit of a foul up there. I might go back and remove that with some. You can see I've accidentally put a big blob in there. Now so far mineral spirits and oils, I've had no issues putting them on the pipes. There's a bit of excess there. So because I'm going to come back with mineral spirits, I will quickly load up, just to save time, I'll load up some more dusty effects on the pipes. Some lighter colour, these are drying out pretty well. My oil paints are pretty old, so they don't stay open as long as they used to. It's not a good or a bad thing. I guess for me it'll be a good thing because I need to move a bit quicker, but they won't last till the next model probably, the way they've dried out here. All good. I'll live with that. Now we'll do the drying on first. Now over time, your stippling brush will get more loaded with oil, so you'll need to start taking more and more care. To not overdo it. Push it back away from the lighter surface. Stretch it out a little. Yeah, I like that. Try and make sure I'm in shot. A little heavier on the end here. There you go. It's just a nice light effect. Good. Don't want it too uniform everywhere. Actually, on the back here, if one place was going to be heavy, I would choose it here. So you know I've made mistakes in a good spot. Because up under the engine burners here, you do want it a bit heavier and nasty looking. So you know, it's not a completely bad thing. My oil is quite dry here. So I might cotton bud off just a little bit of that. ともえちゃん、綿棒ちょっと取ってくれね。Bit of a dry brush on some paper. Arigatou gozaimasu. 2個ぐらいでもいいけど。Thanks, Tomoe. Sometimes my wife hears me say something she knows, you know, back in the old days when I used to be a bit more panicky. Tomoe, quick! Need some cotton buds! You know, I need something! I'm messing up the model! Quick! So she's attentive to it, but nowadays she laughs because I'm, you know, oh no, maybe, you know, another recovery opportunity here. And actually, that's turned out super awesome. You'll see in the finish shots. Now, it won't always work out this way, but I remember, you know, talking with the guys in Japan all the time. We'd say the biggest difference between beginners and pros is your ability to recover from mess ups, because we all mess stuff up. That's just human. But learning how to deal with it and staying positive and turning things into a plus and a feature rather than, you know, chucking the model in the bin is probably the big difference. And you can see, close up opportunity, that's actually turned out pretty well. I'll rub a little bit of my paint back the wrong way. There we go, that's looking alright. Now, I'll quickly dip using the odorless thinners again. And I'm going to mix around. I'll use the same brush because it's in my hand, number one, but can we see that we're in shot? Quick dip. Make sure focus is on for you. There we go. So I'm standing up next to the camera doing this. And okay, so there's a bit of the green brown mixing in, which is quite nice actually. I'll smear these paints around. And you've got to dirty up your pipes. Nothing looks worse than the really nicely weathered suit, and then the support equipment around it. It's all brand new, and Japanese you say pika pika. Everything's like brand new and shiny, and that's just silly, right? There you go. Use the same color palette, and just work it in so that it's not the same everywhere, but you got to keep that color coherency that I sometimes babble about. Now, Wave is awesome that their products all work with enamel thinners. You don't have to have any worry about the different thinners messing up your model, knock on wood. So thank you, Wave. Now don't handle that, you got to leave that, but that will dry. To a good finish. Alrighty. I think oil paints. Oh, I did want a bit more dust across the top of this guy, I remember. There's one place I was looking at and thinking, just light dusting. A couple of spots. Because I want this side to be, I want to contrast there. I want one side more dusty than the other. And I think we're pretty good. I don't want to overcook this guy. I think we're pretty done. Now just a couple of really small details and we're good. See ya. Okay, advanced weathering, we're getting there. This is one thing I'd like to add, just a couple of really small details to models. This is part of contrast again, contrast between the dusty areas and putting on these effects which tend to be quite glossy. Fuel stains and then engine oil. I usually put the fuel stains on first, because they tend to be an older, thinner wash, and then put the thicker one on. Again, I've used their previous versions of this, so this will be a little bit of a test, but I've got a feeling that they'll work probably quite similarly. Now, these ones, well, we'll still give it a mix. Let's see how it goes. Just in case their formula's changed, but it should be a thin paint with a slight gloss effect. Now, how do we look? Yeah, it looks the same. And we don't need much. It's a powerful effect. There we go. Now I'll just paint off that to make it really simple. Will this rest in the air? There we go. Bouncing for the camera. Can you guys still see that? Now I've just dipped my semi pointy brush into that. I'll pick it up by the engine nozzles. There's a couple of places that I'd thought about adding this. One was on the back here. Now, sorry that the camera doesn't appear to be picking up the back here because there's quite a bright spot I've made up under here. See this one, it looks like a fuel cap to me. We've never really talked about this at the studio, but because the other guys don't go to this level of effect. I gotta be a bit honest, I'm a little bit embarrassed talking to them about this because these are real, what I do, and pardon me for saying it, so I do state-of-the-art weathering. So the level I work at compared to the other guys in the studio, they think I'm overdoing it. Because, I'm not doing it how they did it back in the 80s. They're not wrong. And sometimes I do the 80s look too. And that's it. Just a couple of streaks down from there. I don't mind the 80s look myself either. But I also like the state-of-the-art look. Now, I like the knee joints to have a slight glossy effect. So I'll just run a little bit in from the back corner. It's all a personal taste thing. Some people like the old way to do it. And you know, I'm a connoisseur of everything, so I'm happy to try different and new stuff. Always be learning, right? That's cool. A little bit of I was planning a little bit of glossy drip in there. Nice. Moving around. Usually I only do one side, so I'll do a little bit on the front of this joint here. There we go. We don't need a lot. Ah yes, I was thinking about it up when I was making the model. I was thinking some of these parts up here might look good, a little glossy. I'd modeled one that had a little bit more. There it is. So as you're making these, you can think about stuff to do, right? So one side is dusty, one side's a little glossy. Just for some cool variation. Ah, yes. One of the most important ones was the cheeky red panel needs a drip out of the bottom corner. I don't really need much on my brush here. That's it. And I was thinking about putting it in here, but it might make the model too hard to hold on to. The sensor here should be a movable joint, right? Let's try a little bit in there. We'll see how that dries and looks. Okay. Now I'll give that a few minutes to dry. Then I'll come back and I'll put the thicker stain over the top, and that'll be done. Oh, silly link. So I need a bit more. The manipulator. I always forget. This is kind of one of my little trademarky things too, is to make sure this is greasy. I think I've overloaded my brush a little. So here we go. Dust and gloss together. There we go. Okay, let's let that dry off. Be back shortly. Now, I'd like a thicker product. I looked through what the new stuff they've sent me, and I don't have one called Grease, which is what I really wanted. Nevertheless, we'll work with what we've got. Now, this one doesn't seem any thicker. The color's thicker, and it looks more transparent, which is kind of nice, but it's not thicker. Let's work with what we've got. Can't always have everything perfect, can we? Not to worry. And let's see how this goes on. I'll put a slight touch back here. Okay, it's quite thin, but there we go, that's how it works. See, good, you can see the color there. Just a nice little drip there. Hopefully that dries nice and glossy. Awesome color. I really like that color. Let's see. Slight touch here. Slight layer over the top here and we should be good. Streak it down, there we go. And we're done, finally. Thank you very much for making it through this with me. I really enjoyed this one. We went through it very quickly, we made the deadline, and produced a wonderful amount of content here for you, the videos and the PDF download. Hope you really enjoyed it, and super looking forward to the next one. Cheers guys, thanks, bye.